In this episode, we're talking about Turo, what it is, how to get started, and how we did $30,000 in revenue in just under a year.
Welcome to the EntrepreNAGEL channel. Here we share our business journeys as full-time entrepreneurs. So let's get started. Let's talk about Turo. First, a little bit about us. We've been Turo hosts for nearly a year. We've completed over 50 trips. We currently have 4 active vehicles, all-star host status, and over $30K in revenue in our first year. But what is Turo?
So Turo is a peer-to-peer vehicle rental platform. It's similar to Airbnb, how Airbnb is to host hotel-style rooms. Hosts list a specific vehicle within Turo guidelines, and then guests pick a specific vehicle to rent.
And some of the advantages that Turo has compared to more commercial rental opportunities like Hertz or some of those other major brands is with Turo, the guest can pick the specific car they want. If they want a Honda Accord, with Turo they can pick Honda Accord or something more luxurious. With a commercial opportunity as a renter, you usually pick the class type of vehicle, sedan, 4-door, mid-size, and then whatever's on the lot is your options when you show up. So that's a cool difference with Turo. Sometimes, depending on the market or time of year, Turo can be a cheaper option as well. The best part that I like is it is more personal and more customizable to your needs as a guest. The way we've set up our Turo vehicles, guests don't have to interact with anyone. It's a remote pickup process. And so it's convenient, easy, 24/7, and you don't get all of those options when you go with a major commercial brand. There are some downsides to Turo.
So the downsides would include one-way trips aren't always as feasible. I'm not even sure if they allow that option very easily. And then some obvious things like there can be bad hosts, just like there are bad Airbnb hosts.
So how do you make money on Turo as a host? There's 3 major business models that we've seen. The first is people who are renting their personal car. Maybe they have a car that they don't use very much because they now work from home, or they're going to go on an extended vacation trip and the car is just going to be sitting for a few months, or they have an extra car that they don't use. You can list that extra car on Turo and make a little bit of side money listing it part-time. You can pick what days or weeks that it's available for renters. Second way that we do is you purchase vehicles under a business specifically for Turo. So the vehicles that we have on Turo are only for Turo. We don't use them for personal use at all. And the third major way is the co-host method.
Co-host model would include something like running a fleet of vehicles that you don't just own, but somebody like an investor would own as well. And then you manage the day-to-day and rental process, and then you split a portion of the profits with that other investor.
How would we recommend getting started on Turo if you're interested? The first thing to do is research the market you're looking at. Whatever area, whether it's a city you live in or a city that's a little farther away from you, you need to see what the supply and demand is like when it comes to the rental car industry. Really good way to do this that we've found beneficial is using carsync.io. Now you're going to need a Turo account set up in order to access this information. But it will show you a breakdown of all the cars that are currently listed on Turo in that specific area. 2, the current and future utilization of those vehicles. 3, the overall utilization in that market. Meaning you can look and see there's 1,000 cars listed right now, and for the past couple months or the future couple months, 70% of those cars have been booked. Or you can boil it down to each individual vehicle. Say you want to look at the Honda Accord again. How many Honda Accords are listed in your area? Okay, there's 100. And what are the trends as far as how many of those are getting booked on average? And with that, you can do some research and see what vehicles are in demand, where there might be need for more vehicles of a certain type. Second thing to do that's really important is to review the Turo terms of service. You need to understand the rules of listing a vehicle on the Turo platform. If you don't follow those rules, you can get into some difficult situations, particularly when it comes to the insurance side of things, when a damage inevitably happens. And as part of those terms, a really important thing you need to consider is the different insurance options as the host. The host insurance plans range from 60 to 90%, meaning your daily rate that you charge the guest, you get 60 to 90% of that rate depending on what host insurance plan you choose. And it ultimately comes down to how big of a deductible you're comfortable with, ranging from no deductible at all the way up to several $1,000s.
After that, you're going to pick whatever car type that you decided, and then run the numbers to see what makes financial sense to invest in based off the metrics that Josiah just discussed. Also, maybe like what you could afford, depending on this type of car, like an SUV all the way down to a sedan. And then once you purchase that vehicle, go ahead and list it, but keep in mind your local and your state laws for vehicle insurance and regarding Turo and how that works. Like recently, New York just opened up allowing Turo hosts to host their cars on Turo. So it just kind of depends on your local and your state laws. Finally, go ahead and create as much automation as you can and then processes and procedures. So that way you minimize the time that you spend managing each vehicle. Turo now offers automating messages sent to each guest. Use that as much as possible. Carsync.io also offers something similar. And then there's a bunch of other ways you can like automate your business based off cleaning, based off time you spend on it. You just have to figure that out as you go.
And with that last point, Turo isn't passive income, but if you set up your systems right, you can make it such that you don't spend very much time managing and running this side hustle or full-time business, depending on how big you want to scale it. So how do we do it? Those are some of the general terms, but how have we done it in the past year with the 4 vehicles we have now? First, we think it's best to purchase the vehicles upfront with cash. And we can talk about that in another video, why we think that's better than financing, but that will be a higher upfront cost. And so that will be harder to do, a steeper barrier to entry if you want to do it that way. But we think there's long-term advantages, especially risk-wise.
And the advantages, let alone of not having a payment every month.
And the type of vehicle that we have chosen to purchase is those that are more depreciated in value. We're not purchasing brand new vehicles or vehicles that are a year too old. We're looking at vehicles that barely meet the minimum requirements to be on Turo, which it has to be less than 12 years old, and it has to have less than 130,000 miles before its first trip. It can go over both those metrics after it's been successfully listed, but before its first trip, it must meet those two. And we've had good success with purchasing vehicles that are closer to that 12-year, 130,000 mark because they are cheaper in value, but still demand fairly similar rental rates to the newer vehicles.
And to be clear, all the cars that we purchase, let alone anybody purchases and lists on Turo, has to meet an annual inspection based off Turo requirements. And so all these cars that we look at would meet those, or we would maintain, catch them back up on whatever maintenance they need.
The second thing that we focus on with our business is in our area, there's a lot of tourists that come to visit, particularly in the summer. Summer is the hot season, such that there is much more demand than actual cars. There often are rental car shortages in the summer here, particularly with the vehicles that are closer to the 7-8 seat range. So we've tried to focus on that class of vehicle, try to meet a need that the rental car companies can't meet. Another thing we try to focus on is for the winter. Many major rental companies don't offer winter tires, whether studded or regular snow tires. That's something that we have focused on offering to set ourselves apart from the competition.
Especially in Alaska, many people know that when they're driving in the winter up here, they probably need really good winter tires. So with that customer type in mind that we've chosen, specifically those who are tourists or coming in to visit, we offer easy airport pickup options with Keybox setup that offers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they can pick up the car or drop it off whenever they need to, based off whatever their reservation is. We also automate our messages, like I mentioned before, automating our messages through Turo or carsync.io to help convey the necessary trip info in order to cut down on personal message interaction. And that doesn't mean we don't interact with the customer pretty regularly to answer questions and that sort of thing. But it's even something as basic as we get many frequently asked questions. Something like, how do I add a new driver? To, like, if they're the primary driver and they want to add a second driver, we have a already preset message that we copy and paste and send it to them. The automated messages especially has super helped cut down time. When we first started, we were doing it all manually, and that takes a lot of effort, especially to manually type out every single message. And when you're repeating the same things over and over, you realize, oh, that's kind of a waste of time. I might as well just have it set up in the background on my phone or on my computer so I can go ahead and copy and paste something over.
And the last thing we'll mention here that has been a big benefit to growing this business is hiring out help in certain ways. The first thing we did is we hired professional photographer, a good friend of ours, to photograph our vehicles so that when guests or potential guests are scrolling through the Turo options, ours sticks out. In our area, at least, most people take very mediocre photos of not even the full car with their cell phone, poor lighting. And so with a professional presentation, we've been able to set ourselves apart. And I think that does help us get more bookings. The second thing we hire out is help with the turnover process. Turnover process with Turo is twofold. One, you complete certain steps in the app, which include uploading photos before and after the trip, ultimately to prove the condition and to assist if there is a damage in proving the condition before and after. And then the second part of that is physically cleaning the vehicle between rentals. And it's been a huge benefit to have that portion hired out, particularly the cleaning. That has opened up a lot of time in our personal schedules and allows us to focus on bigger aspects of the business, such as acquiring more vehicles or interacting with the customers. That's a quick overview of what Turo is, some of the business models, and how we do it. We look forward to sharing more about this, so stay tuned. We're going to put some more videos up about some of these specific topics. But in the meantime, feel free to message us or put a comment down below if there's something in particular you want to know. Thanks for watching.